Hey there, all you ghouls and goblins. Radio 85.9 proudly presents Horror Zoid with your hosts, Stevie Scares and Natalie Nightmare, talking all things horror from the 80s, 90s, and today. Today's episode is brought to you by the Thriller Chiller. Need a great way to keep your body parts, fresh beverages cold? Get the Thriller Chiller today. Welcome back to another episode of Horror Zoid, everybody. I'm Stevie Scares.
And I'm Natalie Nightmare.
And today, it's close to midnight, and something evil is lurking in the dark. Because we're talking about fucking thrillers.
Hell yeah.
Thriller movies, man. We have been wanting to do an episode about thriller films for a while. Mm-hmm. Because thriller is something that's really different. It's hard to define. It's very broad. It's what we've come to know is been called a super genre of film because it just encapsulates a little bit of everything.
Yeah, definitely a very wide, big umbrella there.
Yeah, we found that you can have thrillers from everything from comedy to romance to drama to crime. Horror is our forte, and that's what we're going to be focusing on today. But yeah, thriller is one of those big genres that you hear it, and it's like, I can instantly name like 15, 16, 17, 20 movies. Yeah. Just
some
right
of the
off
best
the bat.
movies of 2022 are thrillers.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And thriller is in a little bit of everything. That's what we've come to realize in our research for this episode. Yeah, we actually did some research this week, guys.
Ooh, just a little bit.
Just a little. We're keeping it casual, but at the same time, we also don't want to sound like dumbasses. Not all the time. Just a few times.
It's like a little 80-20.
Yeah, exactly. We got to ratio it out a little bit here where it's like, hey, we're not complete idiots. But yeah, this thriller, I've been excited about doing this one.
Me too. I've kind of hinted at this before. It's kind of one of my favorite little things to think about. And yeah, like you said, we did a little research. I kind of read up a little bit. Learned a few things along the way. So that's what we're going to have fun talking about today.
Yeah, this has been like the fucking reading rainbow of horror movies.
It is.
I wish LeVar Burton was reading some of these movie synopses to me. That would make this 10 times better.
But don't take my word for it.
Oh my gosh. This is gonna be a blast. I'm excited to go down this trip. And like Natalie said, this is just kind of a fun little discussion point. A thriller film. Where does thriller start and horror begin, and who knows? And it's just this really weird orgy of concepts that we see throughout film, but it's awesome.
Yeah.
And we've kind of realized that we were able to narrow down a few films that we really like, that we consider some of the best thrillers in our opinion, and that's what we're going to kind of use as a focus point for today. But we are going to get to some of the specifics of the thriller genre itself.
Yes.
Before we get into some of that, though, some of our housekeeping items. As always, leave us a review wherever you're listening to this podcast. Those reviews will elevate us, push us up the rankings, so more people can find us. We don't just want to be your favorite podcast. We want to be everybody's favorite podcast. Don't be stingy with us. Email us, horrorzoidpod@gmail.com. As we said last week, send us your shit talk, your chirps. Send us your fan mail. If you are in love with one of us, please let us know. We always want to hear that. And send us your creepy stories.
Yeah.
If something creepy and paranormal has happened to you, if you've had any weird experiences, let us know. We'd love to share that with our listeners on air, and definitely would make for an interesting talking point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And did you know you can leave us a voice message? In the description of this episode, wherever you're listening to it, there's a link you can click and follow, and it'll take you to a little website, little section of Anchor, where you can say whatever you want to us, and we'll play it on air, and we'll respond to you.
Yep, just let us know if we can or not. Obviously, we're not going to put all of your shit out on blast if you don't want it to.
The way I look at it, if you're taking it upon yourself to leave us a voice message, you throwing yourself into the frying pan.
I'm on the side of TikTok where the girlies don't mind sharing the shit whenever you put out something stupid. So just be warned, we will blast you.
Oh yeah. We're not afraid to do it.
Yeah.
We're not afraid to do it. Also, in the description of the episode, you can also find a link where you can financially contribute to the podcast. So you can help keep our dream alive and keep us going. Throw a little bit of change our way. Anything from a penny to $1 million, we do accept it. We do accept bids for over $1 million.
Yes, please.
If anybody's interested, just throw that out there. Anybody's listening on their fucking yacht right now, their luxury fucking sea
Looking at
liner.
you, Elon.
Yeah, if you're listening and you're like, these guys are fucking, they're funny. They say funny shit about horror movies. I like them. Fucking throw us some money. Throw us some change.
That'd be fucking amazing.
Right?
That's a movie right there.
That is a movie. And
Yeah.
I feel like Vince Vaughn, in my mind, plays the billionaire who listens to us and decides to give us $1 million. It's like Wayne's World, but for podcasts.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
what I think. Yeah.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
the new movie.
If I could play guitar, I would sit here and be like, Wayne's World, Horror Zoid, party time.
I
excellent."
played very little. I might be able to get like 3 chords out.
We could do it. That's what I want to be. That's my goal. I want to be like the Wayne's World of horror podcasts.
That's
We're
pretty
not
sick.
taking shit serious. We're gonna say some shit you agree with, some shit you don't agree with. We'll fucking fight you to defend our opinion. So yeah, I say we're like fucking Wayne's World of horror.
Yeah.
That's my goal. I want to be the
And
Wayne's
we-
World of horror podcast.
And I feel like we bring the himbo bimbo energy.
There you
just
go. There you go.
along-
Party on, Wayne.
Yeah.
I love it. So yes, send us any bid, any money. We're always open to it. So don't hesitate. And for everything else, where you can find us on social media, where you can send us a DM. Yeah, you can slide up in our DMs. We don't mind. Go to horrorzoid.com.
You're fucking wildin' tonight, Stevie.
Look, I this is a show that's supposed to be fun, shit talk about horror movies, and I plan to keep it that way. We will not be enforcing any black tie policies here.
Absolutely
Other than
not.
the Horrorzoid Awards.
Nah. Ooh, I don't know.
Come on, guys. Horrorzoid.com. If you want to find us on social, if you want to slide up in them DMs, we are accepting DMs.
Yes.
Our DMs are open.
Our DMs are open.
Yeah, shit ain't closed.
For now.
For now. All right, guys. Without further ado, we're going to get into the thriller genre here. And I think the best place to start with talking about the thriller genre is, to me, the father of the thriller genre, Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you think of any Alfred Hitchcock film, it's a fucking thriller.
Yeah, I agree. It's, whether his movies are a little more horror or
Right.
a little more crime, murder mystery shit.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's kind of his movies. That's all they are, really.
It's really, that's
I think-
everything he's ever done.
It's just as far as directors go, because there's so many directors now. I mean, you've got like people who like worked on Saw, working on like Marvel and DC shit.
Right. No, absolutely. That's a great point is, we talk about James Wan, who, like you said, he's now directing comic book movies like fucking Aquaman, and he started doing horror movies, but he's still bringing that element of thrilling, of a thrilling nature to his projects, whatever he's doing, whether it is Insidious, whether it's Fast and the Furious, whether it's Aquaman. James Wan does have this way of bringing horror to every single project. And I think that the thriller genre is that bridge.
Yeah.
And Alfred Hitchcock, going back to who the father of the thriller genre, I think what he was able to do is he used the thriller element to bridge all of these different kind of films together so he could make whatever kind of movie he wanted, but you always knew it was a Hitchcock movie.
Yeah, that's
And
well said.
right. It became something, it became a tool of his to help put his signature stamp on everything. Kind of the way, like we said, like James Wan is doing today.
Yeah.
And you have a great, you say it better than anybody, about the talking about the bridge between thriller and horror. You have a great phrase that you like to throw out there. So hit me with it.
Well, something that I just think kind of makes sense when you're talking about movies with people is not all thriller is horror, but all horror is thrilling. And to me, that just makes sense. That
It
clicks
makes
in my
sense
head.
to me too. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like I always fuck it up. That's why I had Natalie say it, because when we're talking about this episode, she kept bringing it up, and I was trying to like chirp it back like a parrot, and she's just like, no, that's not
like,
what I'm saying.
Horror, thriller, not all? And
So
I'm like,
not-
listen, Yoda, no.
Yeah, I did. I was yodeling the fuck it up. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it makes sense to me because they both, thriller and horror both give, they elicit a different response, when you're watching them, feeling wise. Anyone's going to sit down watching, like it's fucking January 19th as of recording. And there's already like 5 movies that are like, it's going to be the scariest movie of the year.
Oh, yeah, we always hear that shit.
Right?
I love that every year, though.
And, like, you don't hear that for a thriller movie. You hear it for a horror movie. You know going into it that it's going to be something that you're jumping and screaming in the theater.
Right.
And you're getting that sense of fear and dread and all of those goody little feelings with horror.
It's a panicky feeling is what it is. You get a panicky feeling with horror movies. Whereas a thriller... you're right. Like I love when you say that it elicits a different response, and it does. It's almost like it's attacking or poking a different part of the brain.
Yeah,
it's kind of what it is. It's like if you think about if your brain's divided in all these divisions of like almost like taste buds. Like we used to believe that whole myth about our taste buds.
Oh yeah,
you know, different sections of your tongue taste things differently. No, it doesn't. That's not a thing. But imagine if your brain were like that, where you interpreted film differently.
Yeah. No, I think that's actually really cool because when you sit down and watch a horror movie. And, you know, I can say this movie is really scary. And this is kind of something that I always hate whenever they're like, it's going to be the scariest movie of the year because I feel like
it's going to be what they mean is it's the thrillingest movie of the year.
Well, to me, saying that it's subjective to the person because there's things that I'm scared of that other people aren't.
Right.
Like how we said, like we kind of laughed a few times watching Terrifier 2, but like someone who's absolutely terrified of clowns would find that movie to be
the fucking girl next to you in the theater. Like I think she had fucking coulrophobia.
Right.
Like when we were watching like Art the Clown cut them motherfuckers up. Yeah.
And whereas there's movies that you know, I sit down and watch, and there's certain ones that make me a lot more uncomfortable than others. Like Mama really fucking scared me. It may not scare somebody else.
True. Yeah, it's like I always talk about hands down the scariest movie I feel like I've ever seen, well, at least recently is The Strangers.
Yeah.
And it's because it's real life, it's home invasion shit. It's a thriller when you get down to it.
It is.
But
I feel
not
like
one we're going to be talking about today.
I feel like if someone's like, oh, this is a really good thriller, like I feel like everyone is thrilled by the same things.
Right.
Like
that's a great way to put it. Horror is subjective.
It is.
Thriller is objective.
Because, like, I remember, I don't remember how many years ago this was now, that movie Veronica that was on Netflix.
I was just thinking of Veronica.
Everyone was like, it's the scariest movie of the year. Yep. Most people can't even finish it. And so we're like, of course we're going to sit down and watch it. And while it's a really good possession movie with really good, like, moody scenery and honestly really good acting.
Loved Veronica.
It's really fucking awesome, but there was never a moment that I was like, oh my god, I need to turn all the lights on, I'm terrified, because that stuff doesn't quite scare me the way other movies do.
No, demonic possession doesn't scare me. Like fucking let a demon possess me. You're giving me a fucking vacation. Demon take the wheel. Like I don't need this shit right now. But yeah, that's a great way to put it. And yeah, so we listed like the fear, the dread, the panicky feeling of horror, whereas thriller, again, it's horror is subjective because what can make you feel fear and dread and panicky is going to be different from person to person.
But everyone can watch, and this is where I'm going to kind of shift off just a second, but just as a reference, a crime movie that's a thriller, everyone's going to be like, oh my god, while they're watching it. And they all kind of feel the same thing. Like thrillers kind of land their goal well, I guess.
Yeah, they do. And there's that element of suspense, excitement, and mystery. And it's like you can't argue when somebody's trying to create a suspenseful situation. Like suspense. You know when somebody's trying to create an exciting situation. You know when somebody's trying to create a mystery. Like those things are always going to be prevalent.
Yeah.
Those things are always going to be present. Those things are always going to be obvious to the audience. Horror, like you said, it's more subjective. And that's what we're going to be talking about today with these movies is these are the movies that have elements of both that suspense, that excitement, and that mystery, but at the same time, they make you feel fear, dread, and they give you that fucking heart palpitation-y kind of fucking feeling. So that, and I think that is how it bridges into horror.
Absolutely.
Because you can have all of those elements.
Because horror
coexist.
Can be thrilling. Horror is always thrilling.
Yep. And yeah, maybe I'll finally get it right now. But one thing that I was thinking about when we started talking about the thriller genre and how it's so all encompassing is there's the concept of the 36 dramatic situations. And it's this guy back in 1895, really smart guy. I don't know his
shout
name.
out 1895.
Shout out to 1895. What up? Keeping it real back in the 1800s. But the 36 dramatic situations states that basically he looked through all of the Greek plays and all of a ton of different art and theatrical presentations at the time, leading up to 1895, and he found out and discovered that there are really only 36 stories that can be told. It through, in that way, there's only 36 different types of stories that anyone can tell. So any film, any book, any TV, anything you watch and enjoy and consume like that falls into these 36 different situations.
It's like having 36 Mad Libs, right? Like it gives you
but
the
that's
bones.
That's just the 36.
Right, that's what I mean. It gives you the bones and you fill it in. So whether the main actor is named Joe or Jane or whatever the fuck, you just fill that in, but the bones are still the same.
The bones are always going to be the same. And that's the thing with thriller. It's kind of part of the skeleton. It's this interesting part of the skeleton that keeps everything together. It's a joint. It's a joint, or something like that.
Like you started talking about this the other day, and I was like, bullshit. There's more. And then I started reading it, and I was just kind of like, oh,
right,
okay,
right. So I love this concept that there are only 36 different situations. So anybody who sits there and says like, oh, I'm so creative, I'm gonna find 37. You're not. They will always be part of this 36. But thriller is one of those that you find, like most of the 36, like at least 30 out of the 36 I could find, were like all had an element of a thrilling element to it, I guess is the best way to say it. And I just find that so fucking cool that it's like, wow. And I've always thought that's one of the things I enjoy most about horror is I like that thrilling element. I love suspense.
Oh, yeah.
I love the tension building up to a scene. It's like I'm that person that, like, I think one of the reasons I can't sit here and say I love jump scares because I don't love jump scares. I love the build up to a jump scare.
And I was going to say, you're talking about the elements that are in horror movies that's making them thrilling. And suspense is such a huge thing that I don't think a lot of people realize, because you can watch a movie where everything's pretty straight out on the table, like, cut and dry, like P2. It's obvious like what's going on in that movie. It doesn't take much to figure it out. But it still creates moments of suspense because it's a really good cat and mouse movie.
Yeah.
So you talk about that build up to a jump scare, which is like the sweetest little morsel of a horror movie.
Exactly.
And that's why I love it when they're executed well and it's like a good jump scare. Yep. But that build up it's that suspense, and you're just like, oh my God. Yeah. And then it happens.
Yes.
No matter how good or bad the jump scare is. And that's thrilling.
It is. It's the thrilling aspect.
Yeah.
That I think is one thing I've always liked about horror. And I love a good mystery. And who doesn't love a good fucking mystery? Yeah. And all thrillers that like have some type of mystery to them. And that's the cool thing. Is like, we've got some examples laid out here in our notes of some movies that aren't quite horror but still fall under the thriller genre one way or another.
Yeah. Just so you guys can kind of like get your brain juices going here a little bit and just think about
that's a t-shirt idea.
And think about how much thriller is in all of the different movies, even like Disney's like Disenchanted is a thriller probably.
Right. In a way it is because you have the suspense of Giselle turning evil.
Right.
Like, she's supposed to be the fucking good guy in all of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. There is a level of suspense to that.
Yeah.
And the mystery of, how does she turn back and shit like that. Yeah, I mean, there's fucking thriller elements to it.
I say,
you throw any fucking movie at me and I could probably tell you how it's a thriller.
All right, here's the thing. Think about like when we were kids, like the movies that we had then.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, what was more thrilling than sitting there at like fucking 9 years old and like Mufasa's hanging off the edge of the cliff?
That's fucking...
As a child,
right?
Bro?
I was on the edge of my seat.
You're fucked up.
As a fucking 4 or 5 year old kid, I was on the edge of my seat in my overalls with my Mickey Mouse t-shirt. Like, no fucking way. He scar through his ass down. That's shit's thriller right there. You can't tell me that's
murder,
not thriller.
Crime?
Right.
Come on.
Right. And then the mystery that will Simba find
runaway
out.
Kid?
Yeah. Fucking
See, if
throw
you just
any movie at me, we can make it.
If you just take the names out, just be like, well, the kid saw his father die. His uncle killed him.
Right. You never know you're talking about Lion King. But it's funny because it's basically Hamlet. Right. Like Lion King is basically Hamlet. But at the same time, it's like still... But Hamlet is a thrilling play.
Right.
It really fucking is. It's like... And you can find those elements in everything.
And so you're talking about those, and like the first two that we have written down, I feel like go perfectly for what we're saying with this mystery. Is Knives Out and Glass Onion. Yeah. Perfect examples of movies that are not horror.
No.
A lot of people who don't watch horror watch and love this movie.
Right.
People who I literally work with who are like, I never watch horror, like the basic most spookiest thing
but
is
they're
like
watching
Hocus
this
Pocus.
Agatha Christie ass murder mystery
Right.
movie. Yeah, exactly.
Because it's a thriller, but it's not fear, dread, panic.
No.
It's suspense, excitement, mystery, comedy,
Yeah.
thriller.
And Chris Evans in a sweater.
Chris Evans in a sweater.
Need I say more?
Yeah, exactly. And Glass Onion's even like further away from it. Like it's not like Knives Out kind of sometimes I feel like teeters on the edge of wanting to play with the horror aspects, but it doesn't
Right.
quite go there. Glass Onion's just like fucking bonkers.
It's bonkers, but there are thrilling elements. There's the mystery to it all.
Absolutely.
I absolutely I love both of those movies, and I think the horror fan in me was able to find that way to bridge it with the thrilling elements of it all. It's like I love horror so much that I try to find it in everything that I watch.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the fun of it is like, where can I spot horror elements in other movies? And I think that's why the thriller genre is so fun, because it's like you can find so many tasty little horror morsels in these fucking thriller movies.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say one of them that we were kind of going a little back and forth on is Shutter Island.
Yeah, we were almost gonna. It was gonna be like an official movie we wanted to talk about, but no, it's like it's not really horror.
But
it's a crime thriller.
But it really dances the line.
It does. It's psychological.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's kind of murder mystery crime thriller. But yeah, I can't really say so much that it's horror. So yeah, we had to ultimately rule that one out. We also cut Insomnia as another great one we were going to talk about today that we kind of ruled out because it's more of a crime, murder mystery.
Right.
Not really horror.
Right, but they kind of segue into horror. Like it just there's just the one little element missing from those movies to make them horror.
Right.
Because something that's super super close to movies like Shutter Island and Insomnia is Seven, which we'll talk about later as a horror movie.
To me, that's a horror movie.
Fuck yeah.
I don't think you can argue that's not a horror movie.
Yeah. I agree.
Any fucking movie that ends with somebody finding their wife's head in a box is a fucking horror movie. And if I spoiled that for you, fuck off.
Yeah, fuck
Go
off.
fucking watch Seven. Like, why the fuck are you listening to us and you haven't watched Seven? Yes, there are prerequisites before you can listen to our fucking show.
Well, honestly,
you have to watch fucking Seven.
I think that's one of those movies that you can't exist on the internet without knowing anyway. So
no.
it's fine.
So I just didn't want anybody to be like, fucking, you just ruined the ending. I didn't know when his head was in the box. Fuck off.
I'll ruin Shutter Island for you too.
Yeah.
But no, I think the other ones we had kind of noted here. Crank is one I wanted to mention because it's the furthest thing from fucking horror.
Yeah.
It's really high tension, high action, and it's more action thriller, obviously, because he just has to keep going so his like heart doesn't explode or something fucking crazy. But it's still a thriller.
Yeah. One I didn't write down in our notes that I was just thinking about before we started recording. It's a movie called The Ref. I don't know if you remember. It's from the 90s. It's Dennis Leary. Kevin Spacey's also in it too. Yeah. But,
Boom.
you know, yeah. But still. But notable names that you might recognize in it. And it came out in like 94, I want to say. It's a Christmas movie. It's a comedy because it's Dennis Leary, Kevin Spacey and shit, right? But it's a fucking thriller because he's basically kidnapping these people in their house at Christmas.
What the fuck?
And he's like, because he's like a burglar on the run or some shit, and he ends up at this house and he's like kidnapping the fucking people, and they've got company coming over for the holidays and shit. So it's funny. It's really funny. And it is like a fucking Christmas movie, but at the same time, it's like you have these thrilling elements because there's police looking for him.
See, you're
and he's
talking about this,
out.
and all I was thinking of was Home Alone.
It's very Home Alone.
Like Home Alone is a thriller.
It feels very much like Home Alone's a thriller. Exactly. So it's like that's the thing. It's like you've got family movies, you've got Christmas movies, you've got comedies like Home Alone and The Ref. Those are movies that have thrilling elements to it.
Yeah.
Like I love that. I love talking about thriller movies because it's something that, like, if this is an episode that you're listening to and it's like we had one of our listeners write us and DM us not too long ago and say that listening to us is a way that she can have her spouse understand why she likes horror so much. And I'm like, that's fucking terrific. Like, I love that. And so I think hopefully this is an episode, if you're listening to it, like, oh, maybe this can explain why I like horror to somebody. Maybe this is one of those episodes where we can help bridge the gap between you and your non-horror fans and friends and family that are out there.
Because I think everybody likes being a little scared.
I'm telling you, I will call anybody who sits there and says that they don't like horror movies. I always say bullshit because
Bullshit.
there's a horror in everything.
Yeah.
Just because you say you don't like horror, it's like one of my favorite movies when I was a kid was fucking Once Upon a Forest, which is one of the most fucking traumatizing fucking movies as a kid, because it's these fucking woodland creatures who are in danger and they're just like running all over the place. It's like Fern Gully, but like not as intense with the environmental message, but it still is like these little animals in danger. Thriller fucking movie right there, dude. And it's a fucking kids movie.
I grew up watching Dark Crystal and Labyrinth.
Dark Crystal, Secret of Nim, shit like that. Like
absolutely.
there's like Black Cauldron, fucking Bedknobs and Broomsticks. I can go on and on about all these movies that are fucking Disney, family, children's movies.
Yeah.
That have
are
thrilling elements to
aspects.
it. Because we all like that element of being afraid a little bit.
And because a lot of your... as you mentioned, the 36 dramatic situations, a lot of those going into those stories is going to create that energy.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, we're talking about some of the movies that, we watched as a kid. And we always kind of like to mention some of those as we call the gateway horror. Because we did grow up watching stuff like Dark Crystal, which... I mean, the Skeksis are fucking scary.
Labyrinth, the fucking goblin's terrifying.
Labyrinth,
Hoggle was fucking terrifying.
I would say Hoggle didn't scare me as much, but I remember the opening scene where like the goblins are coming into the bedroom, but every time she turns around, they like hide and they're like popping up out of places and crawling under the bed. That scene fucking scared me.
It's fucking scary. There's some scary shit.
But I like watched it constantly.
But that's the stuff that made us as kids more susceptible to being horror fans. They're literally gateway movies.
Right.
It's like there's gateway drugs, there's gateway horror movies.
Yeah, like my mom didn't want me to watch Nightmare Before Christmas because of the name, and there was like a skeleton.
What was that fucking movie you guys maybe watch this Christmas about the otters and
shit?
Like
and the
that
otter?
Shit was scary.
That's Jim Henson, bro.
Jim Henson made the most terrifying puppets ever unintentionally. Half the fucking...
As of now, we haven't seen FNAF yet.
We haven't seen FNAF. I'm excited. I think that's going to be more terrifying fucking puppetry that I can't wait for. And then another thing in our notes here that Natalie wanted us to mention is you found that a new category of thriller actually came into play like in the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, because, I mean, you have these huge genres. So... and thriller has so many different breakdowns, and I was like reading all of these, and we've kind of talked about them, where you can have a action thriller, horror thriller. It's they pair well
Christmas
with others,
thriller.
basically, yeah. And in 2017, there was a new classification called social thriller, which targets the topics of societal oppression, racial alienation, and it came into discussion with films like Get Out, Us, Parasite, but there's also, plenty of movies that came out way, way, way back that have a lot of those same ideals that they presented. So they've, obviously been put into this, but I find that fascinating that, we feel like we know it all, and then suddenly, bam, they're like, we should have this as a little micro genre or subgenre of this thriller. Because it is its own. It stands on its own very well. Candyman, obviously, is a huge one.
Yeah, you mentioned Candyman. We talked about it. People Under the Stairs is another big one that dealt with the racial alienation.
Right.
And that was like the early 90s. So like People Under the Stairs and Candyman both came out in the early 90s. And it was like, holy shit. Like there's some huge statements being made through horror movies.
Right. But they didn't quite have a name. And I just think it's cool.
Right.
Like, I know there's people that are like, I don't like labels, and that's fine if you don't like labels. I enjoy little names for things because I'm like ADHD organized, and
it's like a little label maker in our brains.
Right.
That's all it is.
And so if I can be like, oh, this movie falls under a social thriller, then it's just like it adds another little index box in my brain.
Yeah, it helps us organize them on our DVD shelf. Like,
that too.
Get off our backs, man.
Right.
We're just trying to keep our shit organized at home.
But you don't have to give it the name. You can just call it a thriller.
No, but I love that. I love that. Social thriller, it makes sense. There are a few movies that fall into that category. Like we have written down here Rosemary's Baby, Night of the Living Dead. So dating all the way back to like the 60s and 70s.
Right.
There were movies that were taking on those social themes. I would even say, I mean, I wouldn't call it a social thriller, but when we talk about Black Christmas, dealing with subject of like abortion and stuff that.
I think honestly that could be because
dealing with that societal oppression that we're talking about there.
Because the misogyny, you
Right.
know,
Right.
fuck the patriarchy shit.
Right.
And that's how that movie. That's why I was like, we sat down and watched that, and I was like, oh shit,
Yeah.
damn.
So
I think it would fit in there.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like you notice that now that we come up with these new labels, not come up with, I don't mean that way, but when we discover these new labels, that all these new categories for film and where we can kind of help place these in these basket to help us, mentally process like this grouping and kind of maybe study and analyze what makes these films different from other thriller films. Like, I think to me, that's what I really like about it, is that it helps me analyze it from a different standpoint with these new labels. Social thriller. Okay, what does that mean to me?
Yeah.
And how do we define that? And I think those labels really, really help. But with the social thriller element of it all, it is fascinating to think that we are discovering all of these themes that these older films had. And it was under our nose the whole time.
Right. And most of the movies, they are either pretty controversial for one reason or another.
That's very true, yeah.
People of the time were just like, wow, they're talking about this. Whereas I feel like now, especially in light of Get Out coming out in 2017. And,
it was a game changer.
It had such a huge impact and did so much, just it's a fucking amazing movie. Like,
and I know, like, I've ever seen.
Again, we've said this, like, I can't completely relate to that horrible fear that is in that movie, but we can see it, and maybe it can open other people's eyes. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think it's probably the closest that you and I will ever get to understanding it, is seeing it through the eyes of a filmmaker like Jordan Peele.
Right.
That's one thing when he talks about how hard he worked to get that film made. I can appreciate that, because that's a film that needed to be made.
Yeah.
That's a statement that needed to be made. Those are words that needed to be said and visuals that needed to be seen. And I think it's something that it's why the horror genre is so important to not just us as fans, but to the world of film and cinema.
Yeah.
It's a way that so many filmmakers have found a way to express themselves.
Yeah. And I think, for Jordan Peele, I think he's going to kind of fall into that line of creating a lot of movies that continue to give the right messages that would be in the social thriller category. Because even the new one, Nope. It's a fucking heavy ass movie. Like, when you break it down.
Yeah.
And
when they start talking about the first film, the first image ever caught on film.
Yeah.
It was the black jockey on the horse.
Right.
And it's fucking he found a way to get that social message into a horror film.
Right.
And ultimately then at the end of the day, you're like, this is a fucking movie about some weird ass space creature. You're like, it's so funny that he was able to make that statement though in this weird ass fucking horror sci-fi movie.
And there's a lot of it.
It's brilliant.
Obviously with the exploitation of Gordy, which is a very crucial scene in the movie.
Yeah. So many layers to that scene right there. That's a fucking iceberg scene. Because what people are looking at on the surface is nowhere near to what's actually being fucking said.
That's a great way to say it.
Think about that fucking scene. There are the things that Jordan Peele is saying in that fucking Gordy scene.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
And not to mention, the fact that it obviously, I'm horribly forgetting Steven's character's name in that movie. But
oh yeah, I can't think of his name, but the fucking kid actor.
Yeah, the kid actor.
Jupiter.
He grows up to be a hot fucking mess. Like, I don't know. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. Read about it.
Yeah, willing to basically start like this fucking death cult.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's fucked up, man. I love it. I love Nope. Again, like Natalie said, if you haven't seen it, go fucking see it, because that shit is deep. It's a thriller. It's got so many fucking statements to be made. It's great. It's great.
We just need to talk about those three.
We do. Other filmmakers of the social thriller genre, I just want to throw out there. Wes Craven with People Under the Stairs. Bong Joon-ho with Parasite is one I don't think we really talked about. But Parasite is fucking one of the best social message thriller horror movies I've seen.
We've talked a little bit more about that one.
Yeah, we did. We talked about that with the best of the 2010s a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that was Bong Joon-ho, fucking amazing.
Because that's another huge, fucking release that, obviously it gave a lot of people even more movies to watch, because it's going to make them want to go watch his other films where they may not have in the first place. I think Parasite's done a lot of great things for film.
Well, even shit like, The Host. I mean, there's...
I love The Host.
The Host is great. It's a creature feature. And there's not really a social element to it, but there's the family story, obviously, with The Host. And then I'm now watch somebody's going to at me and be like, there is actually a social message to it. I'm like, I just can't think of it.
I know. I was sitting here thinking, I'm like, there's probably something there.
Somebody's gonna
with the way the family is.
Yeah. Somebody's gonna at us and be like, yeah, no, there's a social message to it. And
that's
like,
fine. Let us know. Analysis. It's all right.
And then to me, the father of social horror is George A. Romero, which is so funny to me because he always denied, even up to the day he died, that and he was trying to send any messages with any of his movies. Even though when you watch it, you can't help but fucking think of it, all the messages that he's trying to send with Night of the Living Dead and the messages with race. Like that fucking Night of the Living Dead is, to me, is the first social thriller.
I agree.
Because of what happens to fucking Ben in that movie.
Yeah, like, and everybody talks about it. Like,
it's one of the greatest examples in film.
Yeah, there's two things people talk about with that movie.
Yep.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Right.
And then Ben. And the statement and how that ends. Yeah, it's a painful fucking movie.
But then if you look at Dawn of the Dead and its message on consumerism with the whole mall fucking setting, and you look at Day of the Dead statement about the military and the government military spending and all that bullshit. It's like, it's a military industrial complex is what I was trying to say. But yeah, that whole fucking shit. Like, it's so brilliant. George A. Romero was able to make these amazing statements of social issues in all of his films. And I find it fascinating that to the day he died, he was like, no, I wasn't trying to do that.
Right.
Fucking just brilliant man. Man. Yeah. So yeah, we'll get into some of these movies that we thought are some of our favorite thrillers. And one of the first ones we really wanted to talk about, it's one that was one of our favorites of 2022, and it never came up in the Horror Zoid Awards, it never came up in any of our other subgenres.
Listen,
but we're finally able to talk about it.
You sit down and tell me that it's easy to pick just one movie of the fucking glory that was blessed to us. That was 2022.
Yeah, 2022 is hard to pick winners for that episode. But one movie we didn't get a chance to talk about, but is one of our favorite thrillers recently. It's Black Phone.
Yes. I love
directed
this
by
movie.
Scott Derrickson, came out last year in 2022, starring the amazing, incredible, unbelievable Ethan Hawke.
Love him.
And it was it definitely was one of those movies where it wasn't what was advertised.
Right. This is another reason that me and Stevie are kind of like anti-trailer. Besides the fact that they're too fucking long, they show too much, they can also misdirect. Right. And I think you are going to enjoy films more without watching the trailer.
I've seen so many people talk about just fucking abandoned trailers. It's like trailers they don't accomplish
and like,
anything
if you want to know everything you can know before you even see it, like I know that's a type.
Right. Yeah, there are people like that. That's true.
Like, there's people doing trailer reactions, and I've been dodging the trailer for Scream 6 all
Evil
fucking
Dead Rise,
like the last
we've been
fucking
trying to
week and a
avoid
half.
That one.
Yeah. And
we were even at the fucking theater and just like, oh, look, this floor is made of floor. you know, just trying to avoid fucking...
Yeah, because they showed the Evil Dead Rise trailer, and I had seen like just fucking 10 seconds of one of it, and I was just like, no, I don't want to see this. That's showing too much. Yeah. And I swear it felt like it was just the longest fucking thing. Like, I don't need a trailer to be 2 minutes.
No, there's no need for that. It's like the Halloween Ends one. We saw that how many fucking times in the theater before we actually saw Halloween Ends.
And I know that the trailers can be done right. I know that they can be done without spoiling things. Obviously, Nope is a huge one. Where
Great
we
example.
sat down and the other shit started happening in that movie that you never once saw a lick of in the trailer.
Yeah.
Even though people were worried that it showed too much, but it didn't.
I was worried about it. But Black Phone is a great example because when it came out, it looked like it was going to be this movie about a child killer, basically. It looked like it was going to be about, and that's it. Like, he's just killing kids. And he's like...
picking them up in a black van and... taking them somewhere.
And he wears a mask and he looks freaky, and that's all we gathered. That's what we gathered from the trailer. It looked like a serial killer kind of fucking movie, or a slasher, or it looked like even almost like a fucking Freddy Krueger type movie. But it looked like a more of a straight up fucking horror movie. Whether you thought it was going to be a slasher or you thought it was going to be like a fucking paranormal fucking Freddy Krueger child killer type thing. everybody thought it was going to be something other than what it was. And what it was just a really good supernatural thriller movie.
Yeah, it's a fucking ghost movie.
It's a ghost movie.
Featuring a serial killer.
Yeah. Because, I mean, he is a serial killer, so you're part right about that if you watch the trailer.
And that's the thing is, as this movie, the reason why I say this is such a good movie and why the people who say, oh, I damn near fell asleep through it, like, this is why you're actually, like, legitimately sleeping on it, is because the more you kind of process this movie, the more disturbing it gets.
Exactly. It's subtext.
Yeah, because, and this is a movie that I appreciate because no one, we already know, thanks to Mike Flanagan, that a scene of a kid dying on screen is really uncomfortable if done a certain way.
Right.
And I think maybe that's something that people were expecting with Black Phone, is that it was going to be disturbing because it is a guy who's targeting children and not just, college kids like any other horror movie. But that you don't see that shit happen.
No.
But you do see the aftermath with these kids who come before our main protagonist.
Yeah. And you see the potential of what's to come because
Right.
there are those scenes that we always talk about where Ethan Hawke is sitting shirtless in the fucking kitchen.
Yes.
Like, they never, obviously nothing happens because our
Right.
main character, the kid, is fucking smart and doesn't try to test the boundaries
Well, then,
too
like,
much.
the little fucking ghost kid's helping him because he's
And
like,
the ghost
don't
kids
go
are helping
upstairs.
him, right? It's like, yeah, they're telling him not to go upstairs and shit. But it's like so it's like they show you enough. They show you what could happen. They
Yeah.
show you what has happened.
Because whenever I posted the video about that,
Yeah.
and because for me, I can take my mind away from the movie enough to just be like, that's really fucking hot Ethan Hawke shirtless in a chair.
Right.
In a cool mask.
Right.
But in context of the movie, he's sitting there shirtless with a belt waiting to beat the shit out of this kid if he comes upstairs.
And most likely kill him.
Right.
Like, it's fucked up.
Right.
Like, he's like, I'm going to murder a child if he
Yeah.
comes up those fucking stairs.
Exactly.
It's really fucked up. So it's like, if you're sitting there and it's like, oh, I fell asleep halfway through the movie. It's like, because you're not fucking thinking. It's like, it's not one of those ones where you can turn your brain off and it's going to be a bunch of gore, in your face, slasher, blood and guts.
Yeah.
It's one of those ones where the real horror is what's going on in your mind as you are picturing and imagining what this fucking character of the fucking, what's the grabber?
grabber.
What the grabber is doing to these kids.
Yeah.
The horror is what is like. That's what I love about Scott Derrickson. Scott Derrickson, the director of this movie, directed one of the better Hellraiser sequels. He directed fucking Sinister and Doctor Strange. Like, he's a great director, great fucking filmmaker. But one thing he does immaculately is he finds a way to really put the seed in your head of what is going to happen, what could happen.
Yeah.
And making the real horror, again, is like, you're not seeing it on screen. The real horror is what you have to imagine these people have been through.
It's the implication.
It's the implication.
It just kind of gives your brain the nudge in the right direction to gather what happens.
Right.
And that's really scary. And like, people on that video, because I was making fun of the fact that Ethan Hawke is a hot like DILF now.
Right.
But
it's like, look, if you're gonna do a scene like that, don't make the guy so don't pick one of the sexiest actors you fucking can and throw him shirtless, man.
He was in fucking Glass Onion for like 2 minutes, and I was like fucking dying.
You're like humming.
Yeah, I fucking really like Ethan Hawke, but there were people in the comments on that video where it's like, oh, that scene made me sick, and it's like, yeah, exactly.
You get it then. You get it. That's what that scene's supposed to do.
Yeah, we're not trying to do the, oh, you just don't understand it, but it's like, I get it. It was targeted one way. People probably went in thinking that, and this movie is not their style.
Right.
And some people are just not going to like it, and that's understandable. But I think this movie is truly really scary, just in a different way. It doesn't go as hard as Sinister, whereas Sinister is like got super fucking disturbing
it's
scenes.
in your face. Yeah.
And
no apologies kind of horror.
It's still child death.
Right.
Like, actually, some of it even on screen.
Exactly.
And while you don't quite get that in the Black Phone, it's still really like, it's so sad when the ghosts like they call and then he can like, he can't see them, but you can.
Right.
And it's, I think, a really cool thing in the movie how they create this kind of ghostly figure that clearly has been beaten and wounded in one way or another and killed by the grabber. Mm-hmm. And you can see it, but he can't, because that'd be fucking terrifying, honestly.
It's so funny you say that, because it reminds me of, like, and I showed you a couple episodes of the show. Remember the show Cold Case?
Yeah.
It reminded me of that, because it's like the main detective in the show, like, she sees the fucking dead people,
as she's like trying to solve the case, and you get these flashbacks of what actually happened. It's so fucking great. And you see these kids in these like flashback kind of ghosty kind of shit, kind of the same way that they do in Cold Case. And at the end of the movie, I'm like, oh man, this is a really cool fucking like,
Right.
It's like a really long episode of Cold Case, but it was done way better with much better acting.
I agree. No,
But it was one of those.
I remember that show.
Right.
Though.
It's like a suspenseful kind of drama, supernatural. And I mean, again, there's things that are teased in the movie, but they don't really show anything. So, yeah, I agree. I think it was one of those ones that was geared to market towards the people who are looking for those mindless slasher kind of blood and guts horror movies. And really, it should have been marketed towards the people who are looking for kind of a slow burn, more of a kind of a thrillery kind of movie, not a gory horror movie.
Yeah.
I think people wanted to see Ethan Hawke cutting up fucking kids, and
which is
that's
fucked
not
up,
what
bro.
you get to see. That's not what you get to see. You get to see a really great fucking main character that you can invest in. This kid is fucking great. I want to say the actor's name is Mason Thames, who fucking portrays this main character. I can't think of the character's name right now, but he does a great job, and he's a smart fucking protagonist that you can cheer for and get behind, and you're like, great, I want this kid to win. Finney, that's his name. But that's the thing. You're rooting for this kid. It's a great, smart protagonist. Like,
I
I
agree.
fucking hate movies with dumb protagonists.
And
how many times do we watch horror movies and we're like, that fucking idiot tripped over his own shoelaces?
Right, because like even like his like little sister is like the smarty little, just fucking spitfire from the get go.
Yeah.
And she kind of is through the whole movie when you see her, but also just the interactions with Finney and the other kids. Like, those scenes are really fucking sad.
Yeah, they are.
Because it's like those kids know that they're dead. And they're just using that bit of energy that they have to communicate with him. To basically show what they try.
They even express that they don't have a lot of energy to use in the afterlife. And they're
so
trying
it's
to
just,
make it count.
they're giving him hints like, I was working on digging a hole over here, or why don't you use this to try to get up to the window, and things like that.
Yeah, here, practice your fighting stance with the telephone. Like,
but it's also really fucking scary that like he has the basement like soundproofed because he still lives with his brother.
Yeah,
or like roommate or something, right?
No, I think it's his brother.
Brother, yeah.
I think it's his brother. It's there's a lot of fucking crazy shit going on in that movie. Yeah, we love the Black Phone. Moving on, we're going to talk about another one of our favorite thrillers. This one definitely is more horrific in so many fucking ways. We're talking about American Psycho from the year 2000.
For the girls.
This is the definition of the female gaze. If you hear anybody say it's like what movies are made for the female gaze, it's American Psycho.
Yeah.
Even though it has been co-opted by a lot of toxic masculinity men who were actually the target.
Who think they're Patrick Bateman.
Well, they were the target of the movie, the satire
that
the movie is trying to, the point the movie is trying to make with its satire is it's making fun of these toxic masculinity Andrew Tate fucking men. Mm-hmm. And it's brilliant. It's brilliantly done. It was done 23 fucking years ago, when there was still a lot of toxic masculinity,
and
just different.
Directed by a woman.
And directed by a woman, Mary Herron. Mm-hmm. Done a wonderful job. She wrote it along with Guinevere Turner. It's female written. It's female directed. That's what I'm saying. It's made by ladies for ladies. When we say Ferda, we mean Ferda. It is Ferda girls. So, but American Psycho is so brilliant with that statement of, you've got this toxic character as your main, your central figure, Patrick Bateman.
Yeah.
And it's the ultimate example too of the unreliable narrator, which is one of my favorite fucking tropes and stories. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the movie, he says he's like, he's been killing all these people, he's been committing all these murders, and then at the end of it,
I killed a lot of people.
And then you get that great scene where he's like, that's just not possible. Why not, you stupid bastard?
Why not, you stupid bastard?
So aside from all the memes and shit that are out there, but it's still, there's this great statement at the end of the movie where we don't know what the fuck happened.
Right.
Because we don't even know that he's actually Patrick Bateman. And you realize this whole time we've been watching this movie, or if you read the book, you're reading this novel, and you're like, holy shit, what just happened may not have just happened.
Yeah.
And you're left with this total mind fuck of a movie.
Well, that's the thing, too, is, you're talking about the writing, and it's also written, and I don't remember his name right now, and I feel awful, but
Oh, Bret Easton Ellis,
Yes.
the author of the book. Yeah, Bret
for
Easton
the book,
Ellis. Yeah.
who it's written as satire, like a black comedy.
Yeah.
And people just take this so seriously. I know I like came back around, but I just had to mention that
Yeah.
because, and I think he's also like actually out as gay too. And a lot of the people
Bret
who,
Easton Ellis, yeah, I believe so, yeah.
a lot of the people who kind of boast about it and have their weird fucking obsession are also like super homophobic misogynists.
Right, exactly.
It just, I don't understand it. And this is
Right.
why I love this movie though so much, because it, I know we just said we don't say this, but like the people don't get it. Don't get it.
This is one of those ones that's been proven people don't get it.
Yeah.
It's like the guys who walk around with Blue Lives Matter flags and the Punisher logo all over their shit. It's like those two things are contradictory. Kemosabe.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like the people. It's so funny, and I would love to ask Mary Herron like what she thinks about the fact that the people she was trying to make fun of by making this movie are the ones who enjoy it the most and fucking like embrace it. I don't think she'd be surprised because that's. I mean, the way she made this movie, like she knows the minds of those people.
Yeah.
And naturally, you would kind of just understand that those simpletons will flock to something like this, not even look for the message. They're just taking it at surface eye level.
Yeah.
Patrick Bateman's a super hot, ripped, fucking chiseled guy. I can be like him. He gets bitches.
You know, the one thing that I will say though is like most guys are scared of skin routines, and like he's got the best one.
He has the
like,
best skin routine. I'm jealous of that. I wish I had that discipline. I wish I had the discipline of a fucking serial killer, because then I could fucking withstand a fucking. That's why he's able to withstand that fucking skin routine, because he has the serial killer discipline.
Yeah, because that whole scene, which is beautiful, by the way, like everybody loves that I'm simply not there. Like, but the way that's filmed with him talking about what type of body products he's using while he's washing himself, and then like the moisturizer and the toner and the oils and the mask, and then he's like doing push-ups and shit, and it's just
and there's like and this like classical music playing too while he's doing all this.
Like,
and he's got the most
everything about
80s
that.
pad ever.
Yes.
I fucking love it.
And it's so beautiful, and it's like, but I can see why some of those guys just latch onto it.
Right. Well, I love. I can't say it enough. I love the statement that the movie tries to make, and I love the fact that it's been embraced by these idiots. But it's also just a really good, fucking horrific, fucking slasher movie. It's also a really great fucking horrible men are evil kind of movie.
The evil that men do, as you said.
That men do.
He's deplorable. Like,
he is
yes,
absolutely disgusting.
I love Patrick Bateman. Like, everybody loves him.
Right.
But yeah, he's awful.
He's terrible. He does the most reprehensible shit. And it's like when I was joking earlier, like people would watch him like, oh, he gets bitches. It's like, mind you, a lot of them are prostitutes.
Right. He's paying women and then like obviously hurting them.
Right.
I mean, in the least, obviously, because he kills multiple people. Because the scene when he's like running naked with a chainsaw,
I fucking love the running naked with a chainsaw scene. It's
but
so
he's
fucking
got
unhinged.
like white tennis shoes on.
Right. He's got his fucking. He's got his fucking Reeboks on.
Yeah, he gets his sneakers on to chase this fucking woman down a hallway. She's like in a sad nightgown. Like the imagery of that.
Yeah.
And like he's holding it down towards his groin.
Yep.
Like, come on.
Oh,
it's nail on the head.
Right. It's
but it's terrifying.
It's so terrifying.
Even without the message there.
It's so terrifying. And I think one of the things that I don't really know how to tie it into anything else we've talked about. One of my favorite elements of the film, though, is how Patrick Bateman comes off like this really interesting, handsome, charismatic guy. But ultimately, the more you watch the film, you realize nobody cares about him. You realize he lives in this fucking culture where nobody actually cares about anybody. Nobody actually gives a shit about anybody. He sits there and he says...
Even on the date. When he's just
that's
like,
what I'm saying.
leaving.
On the date, yeah. He says that line about, I
have to return some videotapes.
Right. It's just like, it's so fucking insane how you watch that. Like, the more I watch that, I'm just watching, I'm like... Because he's talking, his friends, his so-called friends, his co-workers, you know, the Justin Theroux, Josh Lucas characters, have no fucking interest in anything that he's fucking saying. Anything that he's doing. Like when he says is like, you know what Ed Gein says about women? It's like, Ed Gein, is he with this firm? And it's just so fucking like, they're not even listening to each other.
The serial killer.
They're not even paying attention. They're not listening. It's just so fucked up. When you think about like, if he did commit these crimes, you think about it, like, so if it's real at the end of it, you know, if you choose to interpret it that way, that these things all happened, then you fucking also embrace the fact that it's tragic that this guy had people around him that actually cared about him.
Or listened. Weren't so up their own asses.
Right. He would have fucking had...
Someone would have been like, hey, red flag.
Hey, why are you talking about Ed fucking Gein?
Yeah, because there's literally the line, what her head would look like on a stick.
Yeah.
And he's like laughing about it.
Right.
And it's fucking bizarre.
And I get they're not that kind of friends. They're doing coke in the bathroom at these nightclubs in the 80s and whatever.
True.
But still, it's like, at the same time, it's like, it becomes tragic. You can interpret it so many different ways, but they're all fucking really sad at the end of the day because it's like, and then the one thing I also like is that there is a little bit of a social element too, with the fact that he's killing prostitutes, and it's, you know, nobody's fucking looking for these women, so it kind of ties into the social thriller element that we were talking about earlier.
It does. Sex work's real work,
right? And it's a beautiful statement.
And ironically, kind of shifting into almost a newer, subtle kind of, I feel like, inspiration from that is Last Night in Soho. Beautiful fucking movie.
Yes.
Edgar Wright always giving the amazing fucking visuals for his movies. But this is another Evil That Men Do movie.
Well, bingo. Yeah, look, we were talking about in like a lot of our recent episodes. A lot of these Evil That Men Do movies keep popping up. But Last Night in Soho is a great example of it. And I just love it. This is the fucking guy who directed Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz is giving us this fucking great supernatural ghost movie that also has this terrific social message to it as well.
Yeah, I was going to say the thing that makes this a horror movie are ghosts.
Right.
Otherwise, it's like a murder mystery.
Right. It is kind of a murder mystery, so it's got that element to it. That's why it's a great thriller.
That's why it's a good thriller,
That's why it's a great thriller. And yeah.
But the mystery is the girl that's sleeping in the bedroom of a girl that used to live there in the 70s who was murdered, but when she goes to sleep, she's like in her life.
Instead of dreaming, she has now become this other woman, you know, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Yeah, it's so fucking... Oh, it's mind-blowing when you see it executed.
I would love to, and I don't know if there are, you know, stuff on the Blu-ray that we just haven't watched. If there is, I need to. If there's some kind of like how they filmed certain scenes.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
Because there's a lot of cool, mostly in the beginning of the movie, like mirror reflection stuff, where if one character's walking by a mirror, you see the other girl represented in the reflection.
Yep.
I want to know how they did that, because there's like the whole stairway has like the mirror.
There's the mirrored stairway. There's like the really intense scenes where Matt Smith's character is making out with one of them, and then they kind of transition back and forth, and it's like he's making out with both. Yeah,
it's like in the booth. Oh, it's weird.
It's so fucking the filming techniques that Edgar Wright uses, and I know I've seen some of these pop up on TikTok, so they're out there. What you're talking about, it's out there. Those behind the scenes little extras that they've done, and yeah, the way Edgar Wright did it, it's very fascinating to see some of those little secrets and little ways they filmed it, and the techniques that he was able to implement to get the visuals that we see on screen. It's so fucking beautiful the way he makes this movie.
Yeah, I love it. Visually, it's stunning. Like, that's a movie that I would just put on for fucking background.
Agreed. It has a comforting element to it, and I think you got great acting though. Like I said, Matt Smith's in it, Thomasin McKenzie, Anya Taylor-Joy. Just one of the best casts in a fucking movie that I think we've seen recently. Yeah. And so many and Terrence Stamp has a great role in it. He plays the older gentleman that she encounters who has a very mysterious past himself.
Right.
I love everything about this movie. It's like there's not really any flaws with it.
No, and I feel it's got a fun second half, because you feel like you start peeling back these layers, and you get one answer and another answer, and you think you're almost done, and then bam, there's another twist, and it's such a fucking good movie that kept me going all the way till the end of it.
Well, and just when you think you figured it out, they kind of sidetrack you with the paranormal stuff. It's like just when you think you're getting to the bottom of the murder mystery type thing going on,
because that's
you go back to the ghosts and shit. And those scenes are so fucking intense.
They made me feel claustrophobic.
The fucking
I'm
library
not even
scene.
claustrophobic.
The library scene fucking got
the
me.
library scene, obviously, like the bedroom scene's really fucking scary.
The bedroom scene. Oh, yeah. A lot of the shit that happens in the bedroom is fucking like
unnerving.
It's so unnerving. It's so uncomfortable.
And then really sad.
And sad, of course, yeah. What Edgar Wright does, too, is like he he puts you there. Like we talk about filmmakers who are able to put you in there, give you a great firsthand experience, and some of the shit is shot first person. You know, from Thomasin McKenzie's character as she's confused to what's fucking going on, and these ghosts are attacking her, and you feel that, like you said, claustrophobic feeling from those scenes. It's brilliant. It's so well done.
I agree.
Yeah. Next movie we want to talk about is one that Natalie, for some reason, says crosses over into horror too much, and I disagree. It's Orphan. And
I love this movie.
I love this movie too.
It took me a second to go, wait, how is it quite a thriller?
It's
but
a
I get
thrilling
it.
fucking movie.
I get it. There's a big mystery.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah. There's a big mystery. Yeah. And it's like, you know, because the whole thing is that it was marketed as what's wrong with Esther or something's wrong with Esther.
Right.
Like, that's the mystery. What the fuck is wrong with this fucking kid? And, oh, God, it's one of the best reveals in a fucking horror thriller.
It really is. And kudos to her because, I mean, she was a child actor when she did this movie.
Yeah. Isabel Furman.
Yeah.
One of the best child actors that I've ever seen because she literally had to be a 9-year-old fucking kid playing that she's a 35-year-old fucking escaped psychiatric mental patient.
You have to be a kid acting as a kid who is clearly damaged.
Right.
And then you have to be the crazy fucking 30-something-year-old woman with the freaky bad teeth.
You get into the Robert Downey Jr. territory of like, I'm the dude playing a dude disguised as another dude. And you're like, yeah, that's exactly what Orphan becomes. Yeah. It's so fucking bonkers. But to think that this little fucking kid, I mean, she's a lot older now. She's a fucking grown-ass human being.
And that's why Orphan First Kill was kind of funny.
Yeah, because, you get her as an adult.
Like her obviously being de-aged or like filmed in a way that she's shorter to look like she's still a little kid.
But I stand by it.
Was fucking hilarious.
But I know, the fucking
kill
effects
was
are great. Orphan First Kill's great too.
Like even seeing, you know, like when you're watching, you're like, dude, she's so like older.
Right. And then the shots where it's clearly a little kid as the double is so brilliant.
Just to get the little hands, like little kid hands, shit.
Holding hands and shit.
It's fucking.
But
it's
the
fun.
fucking thing that cracks me up too is like it's the only movie series that can only get better as she gets older, because the whole point is she's an older person disguised as a kid, man.
Right.
And you're just gonna get more bonkers and bananas and off the wall shit like what we saw in First Kill.
Yeah, I don't think that they can keep doing it without just being absolutely fucking ridiculous.
That's the direction it needs to go, though. And kudos to the guys for coming up with that fucking idea for Orphan First Kill, because
like she's going to space.
Oh, she's gotta be. We gotta see Esther in space.
Esther in space.
She's like, I'm going to be the first astronaut orphan.
I'm going to cut off your prick before you know what to do with it.
Like it's gonna get into that fucking bananas ass territory.
Those are the lines. Like, I know I just said that because that part in the movie, for whatever reason, just makes me laugh. But it's the fact that she is a little kid saying things like that in that movie that's really fucking uncomfortable.
Right. And yes, we're not highbrow horror fans. We're very immature.
Yep.
And we laugh at shit like that. When you've got a 9-year-old on screen saying,
you piss yourself.
You know, it's like, I'm sorry, we're going to laugh at that.
Yeah, because it kind of, oh shit, what was the movie? The Prodigy?
Oh, yeah.
There were
Jackson
a couple
Robert
of
Scott,
scenes that I was like, they don't show him on screen, and I was pretty sure that they had some sort of voice doubled. Like, they were like, we can't make him say this shit.
Right. Yeah.
Because there's a few lines I'm not even going to say it on here.
It's almost like they film him with his eyes only, so you know that the mouth has to be like saying something completely different.
It gives me Danny in The Shining vibes, where it's like, hey, sit on your tricycle and look real scared, but they didn't actually show him anything.
Right. But not with Isabel. No, she had to say some fucking off the wall shit as a 9-year-old kid.
Yeah, like fucking killing a nun with a hammer on the side of the road.
Killing a nun with a hammer, throwing little girls off the fucking playground.
Dude, the little girl off the playground. Fucking
scary.
That's scary. And then whenever she brings in the gun and she's like, "We're gonna play roulette," and you're like, "What the fuck?"
Right. What the fuck?
Like, it's a
when she
scary
pulls the parking
movie.
brake. Like, there's so many good fucking scenes in that movie.
Yeah.
I fucking love Orphan. Like, the first one is so good.
It's such a fucking
and you
awesome
get Vera Farmiga,
movie.
one of our
Hell
absolute faves. And Peter Sarsgaard, one of our other favorites. Like, he's just been in a ton of great shit. I love the way he plays the dad at the end when she reveals, like, oh, I'm not actually a 9-year-old girl. I'm 38-year-old woman.
That's the most uncomfortable scene. She's like, I'm going to get the dad drunk and make a move.
Yeah.
But I don't look like his daughter anymore.
Yeah.
Like, it's fucking...
I'm going to mac on this dude who thinks he's my adoptive father. That has to be our soundbite for TikTok. I'm gonna mac on this guy who thinks I'm his adopted daughter.
Adopted daughter?
Yeah, that's gonna be the most fucked up thing you've ever seen in a horror movie.
Yeah.
That's why that movie will forever stand out in my mind.
It makes me kind of wonder sometimes if someone just watched like Interview with the Vampire and they're like, what if Claudia was a human person?
Right.
And because that's like, that scene
That
with
is very
Claudia when she's like looking at the woman up in the window who's changing, she's like, I want to be her.
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel like someone was just like,
well, there's that scene too where Louis laying on the balcony and she kisses him. Yeah, it's like you get that you wonder if that was like the inspiration for Orphan, and I'm sure to an extent it probably was.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very great comparison. I think Isabel Furman and Kirsten Dunst in those roles very great parallels to each other, for sure. One movie that I've been excited to talk about, and we haven't had a chance to talk about on the show yet, is a movie from 2021 called Old.
This movie fucking scared me, guys.
This movie is bananas, bananas. Like, I know I say bananas and bonkers and shit like that a lot, but fucking A, man, this movie, I am still processing it, and it's been over a year since I've seen it.
Shyamalan, he's given us some really disturbing scenes over the years, but I honestly feel like this one takes the cake.
Yes, and I know what scene you're talking about too. It's the
hyperpregnancy,
the fucking continuous shot that rotates.
Yeah,
and it's just
the rotating shots in that movie.
Rotating shots are he fell in love with this rotating camera angle that he kept using over and over again in the movie. But it works so well.
It gives you a feeling of being disoriented.
Right. Well, and you imagine that the main characters in the movie are all disoriented too, because the concept of the movie is all these families go to a private resort to get this weird mysterious invitation, fucking very Scooby-Doo like, where they fucking get invited to this island. They go out, they're all on this beach. They get told to go to a private little fucking beach, and they start to age rapidly, and it's fucked up.
It's so fucking weird.
But yeah, the scene that we're talking about, it takes place. It's kind of like it's almost halfway through the movie. I want to say it's like at that midpoint.
And these kids that like start as, and this is why this is so
they're
fucking
like 6 or
uncomfortable.
7 years old, right?
They're like 6 or 7, so
Right.
they rapidly age. But the thing that's weird about the island is while they're aging, their minds aren't processing that time is going by. So
they're not processing that time's going by, and their minds aren't aging quite as fast.
Yeah,
they're
it's
aging,
like they're aging.
Right.
But there's something that's just not quite right, because when they're teenagers,
Exactly.
they're still kind of
childish. Yeah.
Yeah, like the way that they're still like building sandcastles or whatever, and they're like, I'm right here, my swimsuit's tight, and like they're just so like, and the parents are looking at them like, what the fuck? But you have these kids that as they age, there's like 2 of them that fall in love because there's multiple families.
Yeah.
And then the girl is pregnant.
Out of nowhere. They're just playing in a tent together by themselves. And the next thing you know, they come out of the tent and she's like, I'm preggers.
It's basically like they go through being like 18 into their 20s.
They go through puberty within a matter of seconds, literally in the film. It's fucked up. It's very fucked up.
So yeah, you don't see anything. They're just playing, like everyone's eating or whatever, and they just walk out of the tent and this girl's fucking pregnant. But the thing that's so terrifying is that she then goes into labor, has the baby,
away.
And the baby dies, and they realize it's because the baby couldn't get nutrients fast enough because it's aging so fast.
Because of the aging process. And you also get that with the elderly hyper age, because there's a woman there who is like in her 60s or 70s.
Well, and like even the kids are like, why am I hungry? I'm still hungry.
They just keep going through the food supply.
And then it starts to realize, like, this hotel driver who's actually M. Night.
That's right, it is. It's actually M. Night Shyamalan himself. Motherfucker.
He gives them like basketfuls of like food, and they're like, oh my God, wow, there's so much. Look at all this beautiful fruit.
We're not going to need all of this.
And then it's like, no, you guys need it because you're going to be really hungry.
Because you're going to fucking age.
Yeah. And that's one of those details that I like. I love as a second watch where you can pick up noticing the things that lead to the twist before the twist.
Yep.
Because you're like, oh, that hotel's so nice. They're going to love all that fruit. And you don't realize it's because they know that this island is making people old.
Well, they know they're going to be there. For, quite a fucking long time.
For the rest of the day, and
Yeah.
by day, it's like, I think it's like a couple of days, maybe,
I do, yeah.
right?
I think it's like
I think they're there for like
3,
2
4,
or 3
5
days.
Yeah, something like
and
that.
then like they're old and dying, and it's fucking
so
wild.
fucked up.
But the deaths in this movie, like when they happen, because obviously there's a lot of drama and mystery and build up.
There's even romance.
Yeah, there's
This movie
romance.
has fucking everything.
Yeah.
I love this movie.
But when you get to people starting to die, like the one that's really uncomfortable for me is the woman that goes into like the cluster seizures.
Oh
Don't like that.
no, fucking
Didn't like
A.
that.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, she's like obsessed with plastic surgery and shit, and she's oh no, you're talking about the seizures lady. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I thought you said cluster. Like I was like thinking of like the lady who's obsessed with plastic
No,
surgery,
sorry.
and then she like curls up into herself like a cluster.
Cluster
No, you're-
seizures
yeah,
are like
you're talking about
having
seizures,
a
yeah.
seizure back to back, but it's not necessarily that. It's that she develops seizures, and then because she's aging so fast, she's probably would have only had one like a year.
And that's
but
that's the thing at the end of the
because
movie.
it goes so fast, she
that-
has one every second.
Well, but here's the thing. You find out at the end of the movie that it's a part of a fucking drug research where they're forcing these people to age. Or
So they can do a lifetime worth of research in a day.
Yeah, it's fucked up. And they find out that and basically the woman who has the seizures, like Natalie's saying, she has these seizures, but you realize how either frequently or infrequently she's having them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like basically her seizures subsided because of the drug that they're testing.
Right.
That was in the food and shit that they were given. It's
Yep.
so fucked up that it's like they're all fucking there, and all they got out of it, I hate to say it like that, but all they got out of it was that fucking seizure medication.
Right.
And it's a big victory, and they treat it like a big victory
Yeah,
in the
it's
movie.
huge. It's gonna like
But
heal people
at the same
all
time,
around
you're like,
the world.
all these fucking people.
Yeah.
All these families dead.
It's really.
It's fucked.
I was so conflicted at the end of this movie,
But
because
that's what it's
I
designed
think,
to make you feel.
right, because so many companies, we all hate animal testing. Like, it's horrible. And it's kind of, it feels like in this scenario, we are the test rabbits. We're the ones that are being thrown in a cage, to be researched. Because a lot of these pharmaceutical companies do animal testing, for cancer medications and things like that. And a lot of people turn a blind eye because they think, well, if they find a cure, they find a cure, it'll be a lot of dead rabbits, but then eventually it won't be.
Right. We're the dead rabbits.
And yeah, and we are.
We're the fucking
and
dead rabbits, man.
That's what this movie felt like. It's like,
Yeah.
you're like, oh my God, they found a cure for this type of seizure, this like whatever diagnosis it is that causes these seizures. You're like, that's so amazing. But then you're like, 4 fucking families just died.
Yeah. And
Like,
and you psychologically scarred all of them.
Right.
Leading up to it. It's like that's the fucked up thing. It's like it's not that you just kill people.
Yeah.
You basically made them endure a lifetime worth of torture.
Right.
Within 24, 48 hours, however fucking long it is, and you're like, but we got the seizure medication out of it. You're like, yeah, it's like, and it is. It's one of those things like you sacrifice a few to save many.
Right. And you get that they're like trying to cure Alzheimer's. Because like
one of the guys has Alzheimer's or has symptoms of Alzheimer's. Yeah.
There's the fucked up scene where the wife, her cancer comes back and the tumor's like growing in her abdomen. They want to take it out.
Yeah.
Like this movie has.
It'll hit you on so many fucking levels.
Yeah, whether it's really uncomfortable deaths, uncomfortable conversations, really cool mystery. There's like some clue finding in this movie from
there is.
people that were at the
there's
beach
like some
before.
great mysterious shit. Like I love when they're all going through like the cavern and it like has like whatever that sonic pressure is that just fucks with them all. Like that's one of my favorite things. There's the fucking dude who's the celebrity. Remember? And like they all think he's guilty of murder, so there's that
Yeah,
going
because
on.
he's there when they get there.
Right. It's so fucking cool. I love, like, when I say I love everything about this movie, I'm not shitting you. I think it's one of the most fun, fucking, just bizarre movies I've ever seen. And of course, it came to us from M. Night Shyamalan. Praise be M. Night.
Right. And it's weird. This one got really in the middle reviews.
I
And I personally can't figure out why, because I think as far as his movies
They
go,
weren't ready for it, man. They weren't ready for it.
I just feel like as far as his movies go, yeah, he had some really fucking bad ones for a minute there.
He did.
And
This
I feel
wasn't
like
one of 'em.
I feel like this was a really good comeback for him. And I don't know, maybe people didn't like the whole like medical shit at the end. But it also kind of feels like there could be a second movie, the way this movie ends.
Well, and I think that there is going to be a second movie, but I think it's also it's one of those movies to me that if I can't complain about it, but I think I could see maybe people wanted more of a bleak ending. It does kind of have a happy ending in a weird way.
A little bit,
but I think maybe that, because to me it feels like one of those ones that should just have a bleak ending. It's like I don't like the happy ending shit at the end where they're all kind of rescued and stuff. It's like they try to make it bleak because it's like,
yeah, because like the 2 kids get out,
right? And he has that line where it's like, oh, you called your aunt. What did she say? It's like, what would you say if a 50-year-old man called your house and said he's your 6-year-old nephew?
Right.
It's like, so they try to make it bleak, but it's like, no, I just feel like that's one of those situations. Everybody dies.
Yeah.
Everybody dies.
Yeah. I kind of agree.
So I don't mind the ending. I think it makes sense the way they went.
No, but
at the same time, I could
couple.
see if anybody had anything to complain about. That's I guess.
Yeah, I think if I was giving it a score, I'd probably knock a couple off for that.
Maybe.
I feel like this movie as a whole was just so like fucking bonkers I was just like, and scary, honestly. Like the deaths in this movie really made me like just fucking want to rock back and forth.
Mortality for
right.
sure. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Next movie we're going to talk about came to us in late 90s, early 2000s. It's called Joyride. I think it was 2001. And
I believe you're right.
And Joyride is one of my favorite guilty pleasure movies because it's not a good movie by any means.
I mean,
but I fucking love everything about it.
It's kind of weird. Like I feel like yes, this is a really good movie, but it's got so much that you're just like, but is it just good because of how it's done?
Is it good because you watched it when you were 16
right.
and it's like Paul Walker, fucking like Lily Sobieski, like perfect like, teen fucking thriller?
Right. Like we loved them. Like obviously, you know, everyone loved Paul Walker.
Yep.
And, you know, he's this fucking dreamboat in the movie. But yeah, they're
as
like
always.
Right. But they're like, you know, fucking with the semi drivers and they pick on the wrong guy.
They really do, because it's fucking Ted Levine, aka Buffalo fucking Bill.
I was about ready to say that's your got hit in the boing loins.
Oh yeah, that is Ted Levine as Rusty Nail is one of the best vocal performances. Yeah. Like you can't tell me otherwise.
Him going candy cane.
Candy cane. My name's Rusty Nail. Candy cane. Oh, it's just fucking like bone chilling hearing fucking Ted Levine do it.
It is.
And it's like in the fucking cat and mouse game that ensues and the whole mystery of who is this guy.
It's on a whole fucking highway.
I love it.
You know, like this is like they think they're getting away and they're being stalked by this. And it kind of has that vibe that I always think of with Maximum Overdrive because of the big truck.
Oh, for sure.
But like nothing's scarier than like you're on the highway and there's a giant fucking semi just chasing you down.
Well, it's like even when you see it in Jeepers Creepers, like the truck barreling down the fucking highway at you. It's like, it just doesn't matter what kind of size it is. It's literally a ton of metal coming down the fucking road at you,
right?
Like, top speed. It's scary. Yeah, I fucking love Joyride because it's so fucking like so symptomatic of that early 2000s teen thriller horror shit that you would see where it's like it's safe, it's clean, it's like you're not gonna see too much, you're not gonna have like it's not gonna be too in your face,
right.
It's like it's a very safe kind of horror movie, and it's definitely one of those ones where, again, if you're listening to this and you're not necessarily into horror, this is one I will tell you it's safe to watch.
See, and this is why I love it. This is why I love thrillers so much, because there are these movies that I feel like the reason this does walk the line into more horror is because you can get the impression that this guy is probably like a fucking highway killer, first off, because if he doesn't have a problem chasing down
Herb
some
Baumeister kind of vibe going on.
Right. He doesn't mind tracking some people down and fucking killing them and chasing them through cornfields and shooting and stabbing.
Oh, God.
I mean, it's scary. It
is scary, and like I said,
Ted
Levine scares me enough. Like his fucking voice is just one of the most bone-chilling voices.
Right.
Like when I'm sitting here saying it's one of the like most intense performances, I'm not shitting you, man.
Yeah.
Like his voice performance here, because that's all you see. You know, that's all you get is his
I would say
voice.
the most you get is like there's kind of towards the end where he's kind of his truck's in the cornfield towards
shit, yeah.
And like you do see a guy, but they never show his face or anything.
And it's definitely not Ted Levine.
Right.
Right.
And yeah, but you get his voice.
You do. And that's enough.
just it coming over the radio. You know, they're driving in silence because they're all uncomfortable at this point.
Yeah.
And it's just coming over the radio going gain to gain.
Gain to gain.
It's scary.
It is fucking terrifying.
But I think I agree. It's safe enough that if you're not super into horror, you don't want to be too scared.
Yep.
This is a good one to watch.
Fucking watch this. Like, yeah, if you're gonna be in that club where it's like you're gonna be, you know,
it's just a step scarier above a
if you're
mystery.
gonna be too chicken to watch real horror movies, this one's safe enough. You can watch it. I don't mean to. No, that was too geeky. I didn't mean it like that. No, if you're gonna be, no, if you don't like horror though, this is
It's
a
a
safe one to
stepping
watch.
stone.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
It's a good one, and yeah, but it is. It's not too gory. It's not too crazy. It's just kind of your normal fucking run of the mill early 2000s horror teen thriller.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now our last one is not so
this is
much.
not safe in any way.
This is a heavy, uncomfortable movie. We mentioned it kind of again at the beginning of the show. We're talking about Seven, of course.
Seven.
Everybody knows what's in the box. So if you haven't seen the movie, I'm
Fuck
sure
off.
you've probably seen it somewhere online at this point. But you get the... I think before it was a huge trend to do stuff that's themed Seven Deadly Sins. This movie came out where you have a serial killer committing crimes and representations of the Seven Deadly Sins.
Yeah, you're right. The Seven Deadly Sins thing kind of became trite and pretty
Yeah, I feel like
pretty
everyone's
cliche
like,
at some point.
I want to do
but-
like horoscope stuff and the Seven Deadly Sins.
right, but
like,
this one was not like that. This was
Right.
kind of before all of that. They got in like right before, and they did this great movie. And I love the scenes in the fucking police station with Morgan Freeman where he's, you know, explaining everything to everybody because he's been working on the case and shit. And like one of Morgan Freeman's best performances. Like,
and Brad Pitt, let's be real.
and Brad Pitt's great too, but it's just like I think like everybody talks about Brad Pitt. Like
Yeah.
Morgan Freeman though is my favorite part of the movie. Like
Well,
I think
it's-
he is just so fucking like this is one of his best movies.
I feel like Morgan Freeman, sometimes he can be put in a role where it's like, it feels like it's the same character in a different movie, and I don't think
They
it's
all feel
his
like it's
fault.
red. He
I
feels
just
like
feel-
he's red in every
Right.
fucking movie.
But there's some movies that, you know, I feel like it kind of just pushes one way a little bit more, and this is one of those.
Right.
I
Every
agree.
now and then, yeah, because he doesn't do too many genre movies. So
Yeah.
like to see him do like this was one of those one. Well, and I think it also helps that it was like right after Shawshank. Like I don't think he had like
Yeah.
quite taken off yet, like from Shawshank, and became like the voice and the narrator that everybody fucking wanted.
Yeah.
So he was still they kind of got in early on that Morgan Freeman trend, and before you knew it, he was everywhere.
He was everywhere,
Fucking
which is
everywhere.
fine. I'll put
Oh yeah,
Morgan Freeman
yeah.
in everything.
Then you
I
put him
love
in
it.
fucking what did he do? March of the Penguins when he was narrating.
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
He's great. I love Morgan Freeman.
What a delight.
It's like his voice will put anybody to sleep.
Say his voice is like our generation's comfort.
Right. It's like
I mean, how
it's
many people do like
him and James Earl
voice
Jones.
covers of him to like just
Everybody
narrate
wants-
shit?
Yeah. Everybody
There's like
wants
the
Morgan
guy
Freeman.
that does his voice like cat videos on YouTube.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, this movie obviously full of amazing actors. Unfortunately, fucking Kevin Smith. I almost said Kevin Smith.
Kevin Spacey.
Kevin
If you
Spacey.
can, and this is one of those ones, and it's like I hate the phrase "separate the art from the artist." If you hate him and you cannot watch anything with Kevin Spacey in it, I totally support that.
Yeah.
I have a hard time watching shit with Kevin Spacey in it as well. But this
Especially,
is one where
you know, since we grew up with a lot of the movies, like
yeah, he was in fucking
I
everything.
referenced American Beauty the other day.
American
and
Beauty.
Then I was
Pay
just
It
like,
Forward was another big one
right.
for me.
And it's like you watch them, and then you kind of like you mentioned, you're like, oh yeah, that, ugh, and then you get like the nasty
yeah.
little chill.
So,
and
but,
unfortunately,
yeah.
he's kind of tainted Seven a little bit for that too.
Yes.
But it's a little bit easier when he's a horrible character that's deplorable in the movie that you hate.
He is the villain. He is the villain of the
Yeah.
movie. But it's one of those ones. So like I said, I hate the phrase "separate the art from the artist."
Mm-hmm.
If you can't, I understand. But if you can, this is definitely one of his better performances in a movie. For what it's worth, he's not in it a lot. He doesn't take
Right.
up a lot of screen time.
Support
But what he
David
does-
Fincher, not Spacey.
Yeah, David Fincher, one of the best directors of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking, can we talk about how amazing he is? He also did Fight Club,
Right.
which I would also want to put on the thriller list because of some
Yeah,
of the shit that it
I
gets
agree.
into and the whole mystery of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But my God, fucking, it's a Fight Club's another one that's like American Psycho though, where it got co-opted by the people it was making fun of. I just
Yep.
wanted to point that out since we're talking about that. But no, fucking David Fincher in Seven. I mean, it is so beautiful. It's so dark.
It's moody.
horrific.
It never stops raining. Sorry, Eric.
No.
It can rain all the time
And they
in
fucking
the
prove
Seven
it.
universe.
But the fucking scene where they go to the house for the sloth murder.
Yeah.
That's one of the just worst scenes in any film ever. It is one of the hardest to watch. This is one of those ones where it's like the number of people that have seen Seven and the people that tell me they've seen Seven and are like, but are also like, oh, I don't like horror. The fuck do you call that?
Right.
The fuck do you call that?
Yeah, because I'm telling you, I, since this movie, have never, ever looked at a little tree air freshener the same again. Because I feel like that scene is a scene I can smell. It smells like death and pine.
It's so fucking disgusting. I like Seven is a very, like, again, I use this word a lot on the show. It's a visceral movie. It will make you feel things. You will, like Natalie said, she can smell the fucking scene with the sloth murder. I know the gluttony one is one where I'm like, I can smell.
Smells
I
like
can smell that.
SpaghettiOs and something.
It's disgusting. And it makes you feel that disgust on so many levels. It's terrific in all of its disgustingness. And then yeah, like we talked about that iconic ending of Brad shouting, "What's in the box?"
Oh, what's in the box?
And
Morgan Freeman trying to calm him down. You know, put your gun down. Don't do it. If you do it, he wins.
Yeah.
Like that whole like triangle going on the whole time is fucking
Morgan
amazing.
Freeman, like when because he sees what's in the box first, obviously, and you're like, it's just fucking his reaction. Again, when I say it's one of Morgan Freeman's best movies, and obviously he's been in a ton of great movies, it truly is. It's one of the best performances I've seen from him.
I agree.
Yeah. It's a guys. This has been a fun episode to do. We love thriller movies, as you can tell. We'll probably do more thriller movies because, as you can see, it encapsulates everything.
It's so fun to talk about again because it is so wide, so broad. The huge umbrella.
Yeah, it never ends, and as we've talked about earlier, they're adding new subcategories to it, which only enrich it and make it more fascinating to study further and further. You know, we know why one movie's thrilling. Okay, this is social thriller. Why is this? Why does this grip us so much?
And I love those too because then it's like it kind of gives you those. If you like this movie, you'll like these movies.
That's exactly it. Yeah, we want to watch as much good horror as we can.
And I just feel like, you know, if they discover or create a new little tiny genre, I wonder what it'll be next.
I'm edging my seat just like any good thriller. And with that, guys, we will leave you with this.
For no mere mortal can resist
the evil of the thriller. Thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. New episodes drop every weekend. Follow us on TikTok at HorrorZoidPod and send emails to horrorzoidpod@gmail.com with your thoughts, questions, and stories for us to read on a future episode. To all our Zoids out there, stay scary.